Yo, what's good, guys? Inswain with Inswain Audio. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, make sure to stick around and subscribe because I got videos dropping every single day. Welcome. Anyways, today I'm going to tell you the telltale signs of an amateur mix. If you're doing this, maybe you got to stop. Let's go. Alright, so this person said, mastering engineers, when you get a new project, what are the telltale signs of a beginner, amateurish, or poorly executed mix? What could beginners do better when they submit their project to a mastering engineer? Okay, so the first one, and probably the most common one that I hear, one of the most, is the vocals are too loud. This is most likely the mix engineer trying to compensate for a bad vocal mix and lack of clarity by just making it louder and kind of, overshadowing everything else. So I think the way to fix this is add more clarity to the vocals, carve more space for them so that you don't have to put them on top of the mix. You can seat them in the mix. Another one that's pretty common is the vocals are too quiet. And on the same token, they might be under compressed. If you compress them a little more, you can, get them slamming in your face. But just generally, they're too quiet. And I think this happens a lot with people that are mixing their own vocals because they aren't a big fan of them. So they try to hide them and bury them in the mix. But of course, how loud the vocal is or how quiet it is really subjective. But I find this to be an issue a lot. So if your vocals are too quiet and it's because you're mixing your own vocals, maybe try to be more objective and use reference tracks and don't try to hide your vocal, it's there for a reason. This one is gotta be the most common, and it's an unnatural EQ on vocals. I don't mean an unnatural amount or anything. I just mean the EQing that was done was so drastic and mangly that it makes them sound unnatural. And sometimes this is the effect that we want, but I feel like most of the time it's them over EQing and doing huge moves and big deep cuts and making it sound unnatural without them realizing it. This could be due to a bad listening environment, not using reference tracks, or any issues like this, or following step-by-step mixing guide or EQ guides. It's never going to work. So I would say that's the most common thing, and that's kind of how to avoid it, is don't do those things. Another one that I hear a lot is too much reverb on the vocal, and I think this is just an amateur thing in general to use too much reverb because it just sounds good. And your hearing isn't quite attuned to hearing reverb yet, so you can't compensate for that and add a little bit too much. I would say to combat this, just wherever you set it where it feels good, try to back off a little bit and see if you can still feel it. You might not hear it as much, but see if you can feel it. Sometimes you can get away with that. Reverb isn't always something you need to hear. Sometimes you just got to feel it and create space with it. Another one that's relatively common, and that's too much sibilance on the vocals. It could just be a lack of being able to identify that frequency range. It could be just struggling using de-essers, right? I remember I struggled with de-essers for a while. So it could be any of those things, or just a bad listening environment and they're not noticing that heavy sibilance. So I would say fixing these things is going to help you avoid having too much sibilance. This one's really common, and that is the mix bus is just squashed. There's too much compression / limiting on the mix bus, and the song is just completely slammed and brick walled. And I can tell that it wasn't intentional that they were trying to do that. It was a mistake. And that's just going to suck the life out of your mix. And everything you did before at the track and bus level is now ruined because you're slamming your mix bus. I hear a lot of times the mix will have too much low end. And this is because low end sounds good. It feels good. It feels cool, right? And they might not have the best listening environment. So they try to compensate for it and make it, crank it up too much. And it sounds good, right? But then it's going to drown out the rest of your mix. So it really doesn't sound good. It's a compromise you have to make, and having that huge uncontrolled low end is just going to swallow the rest of your mix and ruin it. So yeah, I hear that a lot. And then conversely, I'm also hearing not enough low end. And once again, this is probably due to a poor listening environment, or a lot of times it comes down to bad production, not having a sufficient, low end to begin with. Can be hard to work with or impossible to work with. So a lot of times it's not even really the mixer's fault, so to speak, but I hear that a lot. So I would say make sure the production is locked in and make sure your low end is sitting right and tight. But those are the things that I hear the most in an amateur mix when I go to master them. Let me know down below if you're doing any of these things. If you struggle with them, no shame. We've all struggled with them. We all continue to struggle with them. Let Let me know if I missed any or just how you're feeling in general. Anyways, guys, I hope you got something from that. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.